In this lesson, we're going to work through past paper questions for both APs and GPs. What you often find is that one part of the question is an AP and the other part is a GP. So they very much work together in a question. So we're having a look at a random selection of questions, but with a bit of an applied twist, rather than just first term, second term, third term type of questions. So kicking off all the way back to winter 2003, we have a debt of 3,726 is repaid by weekly payments which are in an arithmetic progression. The first payment is $60 and the debt is fully repaid after 48 weeks. Find the third payment. So with this kind of question, it's really important that you play detective and figure out what the information is that you've got. So we know we're dealing with an AP, and we know that what we're looking at is the amount repaid. So they repay 60 in the first week. So A equals 60. So each week there's a sum that's being paid. Okay, 60 and then maybe 65, 70, 75, so on and so forth. Now the thing is that we don't know what each of those terms are, but we do know that after those 48 weeks, it's all going to add up to 3,726. Because that, of course, is the total amount of debt that's being repaid. So we know that A is 60, and we know that the sum after 48 weeks is equal to 3,726, but our summary never stops there. We always break it down. Equals 1/2 n 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Then we can see that things are starting to happen here because they asked us to find the third payment, U3. Okay, but we know that in order to calculate that, we need A, N, and D. A sorted, N sorted, D we need. But from our summary, we have an equation here and the only unknown is D, so we can calculate it. So we know that 3,726 equals half of 48 is 24, 120 plus 47D. So we can divide through by the 24, 155.25 equals 120 plus 47D. Okay, subtracting 120 dividing by 47, 0.75 equals D. So now we have the A, the N, and the D that we need in order to calculate that third term, the third payment. So U3 equals A plus N minus 1 times D, which equals 61.5. Just because it's an applied question, I don't like to leave it as U3. They asked us for the third payment. So, therefore, third payment equals $61.50. Okay, giving that 2 decimal places because we're working with money. So that was the AP part of the question. If we move to part B, we find, funnily enough, a GP. Find the sum to infinity of the geometric progression whose first term is 6 and whose second term is 4. So we know that we have a GP. We know that A equals 6 and U2 equals 4 equals 6R. Sum to infinity, what do we need? A over 1 minus R. And look, we can calculate R. So 4 equals 6R, R equals 2/3, and therefore sum to infinity equals A, 6 over 1 minus R, 2/3. So we calculate 6 divided by 1/3, 6 times 3 gives us 18. The sum to infinity of this GP is 18. So we move on to another question and we see part 1 and we see there very soon geometric progression. And then we see arithmetic progression. So that same pattern going ahead, we've jumped forward all the way to 2014 and we're still having that same pattern of questions. APs and GPs stuck together in one question. So part 1 tells us that we have a geometric progression with first term a, where a doesn't equal 0, we must remember that, common ratio r, and sum to infinity s. A second geometric progression has first term a, the same, common ratio 2r, and sum to infinity 3s. Find the value of r. So let's have a think about this. We have our first GP, which goes a, r, and s. We have our second GP, which also goes a, but then it goes 2r, and then it goes 3s. So first term, ratio, and sum to infinity. So from here, we can see that actually we have s equals a over 1 minus r, and we have 3s equals a over 1 minus 2r. Now this is getting interesting, okay? They want us to find r, which means we're actually going to have to get rid of s and a, because we don't have 3 equations going on here. So let's be a little bit clever. If we divide through by the 3 here, we have an s and an s, so we can then equate the formulas on the other side and get rid of the s. So let's try that. So s equals a over 3 minus 6r. Okay, multiplying by a third, divided by 3, same story. So now what happens? Well, now what we're saying is we can equate s's because s equals s. So we would have a over 1 minus r equals a over 3 minus 6r. But you must stop and you must think a little bit there, because a over this, all the a's are both identical. So what we've actually got here is identical left-hand sides, the s, and we have identical numerators, the a's. So that means that the denominators must also be equal, and we can zoom straight into those denominators. So 1 minus r equals, therefore, 1 minus r equals 3 minus 6r. So, moving him across, 5r equals 2, and r equals 2/5. So although we started out with 3 unknowns, we've boiled it down to actually an equation just in 1 unknown because of the similarities that we had between the 2. So always take that time to understand and think through what it is we're going to be working with. So part 2. An arithmetic progression has first term 7, so AP, A equals 7. The nth term is 84 and the 3nth term is 245. Find the value of n. Well, we know that un equals 84 and 3n equals 245. Summaries don't stop there. We always break them fully open. So 84 equals nth term. So a plus n minus 1 times d. 245 equals a plus, well, n minus 1, but in this case our n is the 3n, the full identifier. So 3n minus 1 times d. And now you're starting to get a little bit excited because we can see here there is something going on. What we have here are 2 equations and 2 unknowns. And when we have 2 equations and 2 unknowns, then we are heading towards simultaneous equations. So we have an 84 equals 7 plus n minus 1 times d. And we have, let's actually make life a little bit easier. I've done something very strange when I was prepping this one. Okay, we're going to simplify this one. So 84 minus 7 gives us the 77 equals n minus 1 times d. And then let's rather work this way. There's always multiple ways to get through a calculation. If we say D equals 77 over n minus 1, we can then replace D. So we would have 245 equals 7 plus the 3n minus 1, but now 77 over n minus 1, replacing that in there. So making life a little bit easier, getting rid of the 7, moving him across. So 238 equals 3n minus 1, 77n minus 1. Now we can clear our fraction. So 238 times n minus 1 equals 77, 3n minus 1. And don't worry, in an exam you will have enough space. This was just me not actually putting enough lines in here. So we have 238n minus 238 equals 77 times 3 gives us 231n minus 77. Bringing them all together, 238 minus 231 gives us a 7n. 238 minus 77 gives us 161, and n then equals 23. So the value of n, where our nth term is 84 and our 3nth term is 245, is n equals 23. Always bear in mind that you've got different roots. As you've seen, I went a different route when I prepped this question to when I went here. But the thing is that you're always aiming to go the simplest route. And this route here is actually prettier than the one I used before. So always, always aim for the simplest and most efficient route. You want to watch your time. You want to make sure that you have enough time to spend then on other questions and to check your paper at the end. So our last question for this one is another very applied question. A water tank holds 2,000 liters when full. Okay, so a total of 2,000 liters. A small hole in the base is gradually getting bigger, so that each day a greater amount of water is lost. On the first day after filling, 10 liters of water are lost, and this increases by 2 liters every day. How many liters will be lost on the 30th day after filling? So first we have to think, okay, are we dealing here with an AP or a GP? Increases by 2 liters each day. That's plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, which is an AP. What's our first term? On the first day after filling, 10 liters are lost. So this sequence is all about the amount of water lost. So A equals 10 and D equals 2. On the 30th day after filling, well, first day, 10, second day, 12, 30th day, U30. So, U30 equals A plus n minus 1 D. So 10 plus 29 times 2 is 68. That is U30. But again, in an applied question, it's nice to give the applied answer. So we would then say 30th day, loss equals 68 liters. They then tell us that the tank becomes empty during the nth day after filling. Find the value of n. So we've lost, and the total we have lost is 2,000 liters. So still, AP, A equals 10, D equals 2, but in this case now, instead of doing a term, we're looking for a sum. And we don't know of how many terms. But we do know that it equals 2,000. So that would be then 1/2 n, 2 by 10 to A plus n minus 1 D. Substituting in brackets, good habits, keep science safe. Now we can see we've got that equation, 1 unknown, we can solve for n. So 2000 equals 1/2 n 20 plus 2n minus 2. So let's get rid of that 2 just to get a fraction out of the way. So 4000 equals n times, well, 20 minus 2 is 18. So 18n, n times 2n plus 2n squared. We're heading towards a quadratic. So if we bring everybody onto one side, and we're going to divide by 2, because all of these are even numbers. So we'll just keep it nice and simple. So 0 equals 18 n squared. 18 over 2 is 9, so plus 9n minus 2000. And we're sitting there looking at it and we say, okay, factors of 2000 and subtract to 9. Okay, that's going to take me a little while. Plus, remember they said during the nth day. That suggests that n is not going to be straightforward, because if they said n equals 2, it would be the second day. If n equals 20, it is the 20th day. But the fact that it's during means that we're going to get an answer here for like 20.5. That's then during the 20th day. So that all combined together suggests that actually we're using the formula to solve this quadratic rather than factorizing. So n equals minus 9 plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac gives us plus 4 times 2000 plus 8000 all over 2. So n is going to equal 40.4, or n is going to equal minus 49.4. Well, this is an applied question. We cannot have a negative number of days, so this one is not applicable. So now we have to consider during the nth day after filling, and we've got n equals 40.4. So is this now the 40th or the 41st day? If we round it, it's 40, but rounding is not going to help us in this case. We need to turn brains on. So 40.4 means that at the end of the 40th, we weren't there yet. By the end of the 41st, we will be there yet. So during the nth day, n is 41. It is during that 41st day that the tank will become empty. So therefore, n equals 41. It is the 41st day after filling on which the tank will become empty. The question continues. Assume instead that 10 liters of water are lost on the first day, and that the amount of water lost increases by 10% on each succeeding day. How do you take a percentage? You multiply. So we're now looking at a GP. Find what percentage of the original 2,000 liters is left in the tank at the end of the 30th day after filling. So we are summing the losses here. So we're going to have to sum the loss, remove that from the total, and then get the percentage remaining. So we have A equals 10. We're still losing that same 10 liters on the first day. But now we're increasing by 10%. Increasing. So 100 plus the 10. The 100% that we lost plus 10% more means that our R equals 1.1 in this case. Not 0.1 for 10%, but 1.1. So that we can increase. So end of 30th day. So first we need to calculate how much has been lost. So that's the sum of all these losses that we're looking at. So the sum of 30 equals 10 times 1 minus 1.1 to the 30. Put them in brackets to play safe. 1 minus 1.1. Now I know this is back to front a bit because 1 minus 1.1 is going to give us a negative answer, but A over 1 minus R is the one that sticks, and so this is the formula that I use. When you plug it into calculator, you're going to get negative over negative, get a positive. Anyway, we're sorted. So S of 30 equals 1644.94 liters that have been lost after those 30 days. But they want percentage original left in the tank. So our amount left equals 2000 minus 1644.94 equals 355.06. So that's the liters that are left. Now to turn that into a percentage. So percentage remaining equals 355.06 over the original 2000 times 100 to get the percent. This gives us 17.75. No instructions, so we round to three significant figures, 17.8%. And that's our final answer. So when you have these applied questions, it's really important that you take a little bit extra time to really understand how the information in the questions relates to the pieces of your formulas and your A's, your N's, your D's, your R's, and how it all ties in with terms and what's a sum, and map it out so that you're sure that you fully understand the question before you get going on your calculations.